Excellent. So, welcome once again. Before we start, we'll just quickly acknowledge the Ngunnawal people who are the traditional custodians of the lands upon which UC is based and the lands upon which I work and live as well. I'd like to pay my respect to the elders past, present and emerging, and any of you who are in the room who may be part of First Nations peoples. Alrighty. So, first of all, we have a welcome from the Dean of the Faculty of Science and Technology. Janine Deacon, Professor Janine Deacon is our Executive Dean. She's keeping very COVID safe today and has recorded a short video to welcome you. I believe she's in Cairns at the moment, so yeah, very super COVID safe. Okay. I will play that video for you later, apparently. All right, so who am I? My name is Adrian Dussing. Amongst many things, I am a lecturer here. I lecture in data analysis and science, in introductory physics, as well as first year biology. Are any of you enrolled in any of those units already? DAS? Yep. DAS? DAS? Not yet? Oh, but I think you will. And the physics, any of you? So excellent. To be honest, I might actually get a feel for what you're doing here as well and things to do with us. You're Bachelor of Science at the moment, that's right. But with environmental science, potential data science flavor. Okay, yes. Perfect. That sounds good. Bachelor of Environmental Science, beautiful, and Bachelor of Environmental Science as well. Okay, nicely split. So we will actually go through the particulars of how your degrees work. But before then, we need to introduce a whole bunch of sort of administrative matters. Now, I am conscious that these slides were not entirely put together by me, that they contain a lot of information. So I'm not going to go through all that information in blow-by-blow detail. If there's anything important I skip over, Katie will call me out on it, and we'll go back and emphasize what we need to. However, for the most part, it's important just for you to know that this information is in this slide deck and that it will be made available to you. Okay? And I'll show you where it's available in just a minute. So yes, as I say, I'm Adrian. This isn't actually a photo of me. That's the first biology lesson for you. That is my finger though, and that is my research animal from my PhD, Tamapaga tipidara, which I challenge you to have a few cordials, spin around twice and then say that. If you feel like you're struggling to sleep at any stage, you need a nap, ask me about my research, I'll help you out. So I'm also a program director. What a program director does is that they have oversight over a whole course. So in my case, I look after our environmental science students, our forensic studies students, and I also look after the Bachelor of Science more generally. We have another program director, Nicole Beard, who also helps take care of the Bachelor of Science, but her focus is more in the biomedical and medical science spaces. Okay. So any questions you have about your course, you need course advice, you want to know what unit to take next, you want to know which unit sets to take to end up in a particular place for your career, then you come to me. Okay, so you need course advice. To be honest, between all these things, I am running around a little bit, and so it's best to go through this email address first. This is our faculty education team. They can help you with course advice as well, but in a more general sense. Anything that requires an academic call or is a little bit more complicated, they will escalate to myself or to Mickey. Okay? So in the first place, if you need course advice, you come to this address. Hello, Tariq, would you like to say hello to everyone? This is I'd like to introduce our Head of School of Science.
Hi, everyone.
Professor Tariq Azaz. If you come down here, you'll be captured on the camera.
Where is the camera?
Yeah.
Okay. Hello, everyone. I'm Tariq Azaz. I'm Head of School. I also do some teaching, so I'll see you around. And also, I'll see you guys at the lunch. So welcome, and hope you enjoy our degree. Thank you. Thanks a lot, Adrian.
No worries. Thank you. Of course, at any stage, if you want to ask questions, just stick up your hand. This is a whole list of names of people. They will mean something more to you as you progress, I'm sure. It is, put this included this here more to give you a structure of how the faculty works than anything else. So we are the Faculty of Science and Technology. You guys, for the most part, will be taking subjects within the School of Science. And Tariq is our head of School of Science. So you've just met Tariq. The very tippy top, we have our executive dean, who oversees the whole faculty. Underneath Janine, we have an Associate Dean of Education, Tamsin Kelly, whom some of you will meet as a teacher, as well as Diane Gleason as the Associate Dean of Research. Some of you will meet Diane as well. I heard Katie talking about eDNA as well before. Diane heads up the eDNA lab. You will come across these people at some point, I'm sure, because they're all very involved in the teaching program. However, for the most part, you won't really interact with them in these roles. You will, however, be speaking to myself as program director, potentially Nicole as the other program director, and Michael Sidney. So Michael Sidney is our first year science student coordinator. Michael teaches into a lot of first year units, and he helps with the student journey, I guess. So if you've got more general questions about how uni works, about how to get your timetable into shape, those kind of questions, Michael is your point of contact. You'll also find for most of your first year units that Michael takes care of things, some of the administrative concerns. So attendance and so on and so forth. Okay. So you'll see Michael around. He teaches into DAS. Does he teach into plants and animals as well? Okay. I think that's all I need on that side. The student center. Okay, so there is a lot of different ideas on this slide. I suggest you come back to this as a resource if you have a particular question. The takeaway from this slide, however, is that we have Student Central. So who's already been over to Building 1 and knows what I'm talking about when I say Student Central? Okay, yep, maybe. So Student Central run drop-in sessions where you can go up and talk one-on-one with someone if you have any concerns about, I don't know, your HEX or your enrollment or your timetable or whatever it may be. Not academic concerns necessarily. You know, I'm late handing in this assignment. That's for your unit convener, not for Student Central. But for administrative matters, you go to these guys. Worst case scenario, if you're in the wrong place, they'll tell you where to go. Okay, so they're sort of your hub on campus if you've got any questions. One service that they do run, or the faculty runs through the Student Center, is I mentioned before the idea of getting course advice. So if you don't know what units to take next, or you failed something and you want to know what that means for your progression, you can attend a drop-in session for course advice for our faculty. And those times are advertised here. The last thing I'll draw your attention to on this slide is over on the right-hand corner, we have consent matters. This is an important theme running throughout all the courses that are offered at UC. You are actually required to complete a module before you finish, not before you start, but before you finish at UC, where it's like a training module on consent and the importance of consent. So I encourage you to get that out of the way early. It's important material to grapple with, but also know that you have to do it at some stage. All right, I mentioned course advice. I don't think I need to go over this again. Course advice is just what do I study next, those kind of questions. How do I get to where I want to go? Your point of contact is one of those drop-in sessions or that email address I put up earlier, which is also repeated here, the SciTech student inquiries. Any questions so far? I know it's a little bit dry. Whoever created these slides in the first place, and I'm partly guilty for them, didn't realize that what you've actually done in coming here today is starting possibly the most exciting thing you're going to do for the next few years, and I don't think the slides really convey that. However, know that this information is here, and there's plenty of support for you in whatever you need to do. If you do have any questions though as we go, stick up your hand. I'm happy to go into more detail. All right, communications within the university. Most of what we do in terms of communicating with you is done electronically, through your email or through your Canvas sites for individual units. I will go through a Canvas site in a minute, In the meantime, your email address, you should have one that looks a little bit like this on the right-hand side of the screen there, with, instead of X's, your student number. Are you aware that you have a student number? Yep, okay, excellent. All students' email addresses follow that same format. The importance of email is such that if we communicate something to you about your fees or your enrollment or any aspect of your study, if we do it through email, we assume that you have read it, that if you have received it and that you have read it and understood. And if you don't understand it, then you'll follow up on it. Okay, so it is important to make sure you keep checking your student email. Another important aspect of UC email is that we can't actually communicate with you through your personal email addresses. So if you email me late on a Friday and say, hey Adrian, I just had a bike accident, I'm not going to be able to submit that super important data analysis assignment that I was really wanting to by midnight tonight, I need an extension. If that comes from your personal email address, I have to, well, I'll reply and say, please send an email from your student address, okay? So just cut out that step, always interact through your UC email address, all right? I think that's sufficient for that, knowing that I'm going to go into Canvas right now. Okay, who's logged into Canvas? You've checked it out? Okay, some of you have checked it out. Right, so Canvas is your portal into the university. It's the way that you interact with conveners and other students in each of your units. So when you log into Canvas, you'll see an arrangement something like this. Each tile will represent a different unit or a different module in which you are enrolled. So you can see that, for instance, I am enrolled in the transition orientation portal because that's, in fact, what we're communicating virtually through at the moment. But I also have a tile for each of the units that I was enrolled in first semester this year, communication in science and concepts in biology. It is by clicking on this tile that I'm taken to the home page of each of those units. So if I want to submit my communication in science assignments, I need to click on that tile, go into that page, and find the appropriate place to submit. If I want to ask Katie a question about concepts in biology, then I need to go into concepts biology portal and ask away in discussion board or whatever it might be. Okay, so once again, Canvas is an information hub. It's where we disseminate all the information you need about changes to the units, impending assignments, any changes to timetables or whatever it might be. You will be on Canvas every day. And the expectation, certainly I have this expectation, I assume you do too, that students will check every day. Okay? So all the information you need about your units is disseminated through Canvas. Now the beauty of Canvas is that you can set it up such that any announcements we make get emailed to your inbox as well. That's all well and good. I still want you to use it as the hub, the daily check-in to your unit. Okay, so make sure before, if you want, you can do it before you even leave today. Make sure that you you have access to a Canvas site for each of your enrolled units. It's automatic, you don't need to do anything, but just in case you've got any troubles, you can check before you leave. Okay, Canvas. What's next? I've kind of mentioned this. This is what I've mentioned courses. This kind of ties together everything we've said so far, I guess. So one of those Canvas sites that you'll be enrolled into automatically is the School of Science course advice and information page. So anytime that you want to follow up any of those links that I've mentioned already, or you want some more generic advice about this is the way my study plan should look over the next 3 years, hit this site up first. Okay, so go into Canvas, click on the tile for the School of Science course advice and information page, and troll through some of the information there. Okay, you will find that's a really useful resource as well. All right, we then have more specialized services that won't be relevant to all of you, but are very important to know exist. First, I'll just be honest, most of them are self-explanatory, so I'll just briefly mention Careers UC is there to assist you, even from day one, in terms of getting your CV in order, in terms of applying for jobs. You do not have to wait for the end of your course. You do not have to wait to year 3 or 4, whatever it might be, before you start hitting up careers you see. Take advantage of them from day one. They can help you with all those professionalism skills and CV-related skills and so on that you might need. They run workshops, they run drop-in advice as well. Inclusion and engagement. Inclusion and engagement cater to our students that have some extra requirement that we need to take into consideration when we as academics are teaching you or assessing you or whatever it might be. So pulling something out of midair, if you have a hearing impairment, you might want to talk to inclusion and engagement so that they can work with you and your lecturer to come up with ways in which the lecturer can accommodate your special needs. Okay? There are a variety of reasons you might go and see inclusion and engagement that are not limited to physical ailments, not limited to mental health. I would suggest that if you are at all considering whether their services are necessary for you or could be useful for you, that you hit up their site and check out what they have on offer. Is that a fair summary? Okay. They play a very important role. And I will say it now about inclusion engagement, but it also applies to most of the services up here that confidentiality is paramount. So even as I say, if you work with inclusion engagement and help you come up with ways in which lecturers can accommodate you, your lecturers don't necessarily know the reason why. All we know is that we can help you in this way and what processes we can put in place for you without needing to know why. If you're an international student, there is an international student support service that I suggest you may take advantage of. The Ngunnawal Centre is assistance for Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander students. That again, if you identify in those brackets, then you should make use of their services. Medical and counselling are on campus. For most students, for a lot of services, they can bulk bill. And so if you're at all under the weather or unsure of how you're feeling that morning, make sure that you make use of medical and counselling. We, as a hard requirement, need documentation for any consideration of late assessments or non-attendance at class and things like that. So part of documented evidence is that you have often medical certificates are the way to go. And so the medical and counselling service are there to be taken advantage of. Wait, that's not what I meant to say. Are there to, you should definitely make use of their services too. And finally, there's student welfare. Student welfare cover a variety of issues as well. You may find you need to interact with them because there's a grievance that you want to pursue, or you've recently they've been helping students that have been under financial strain due to COVID restrictions and things like that. Okay? So there are many reasons you might want to hit up student welfare as well. All right, another service is study skills. So study skills provide, well, study-related services. It's kind of in the name, isn't it, Adrian? So study skills provide services mainly through drop-in sessions or organised workshops through the library or online. They will cover a variety of skills that will be of use to you throughout your degree. In some cases, you might find that your lecturers actually refer you to study skills. Now, that's not an insult by any means. It just means that there's something complementary to your studies in class that you could brush up on. So it might be English language skills. It might be something more general, like helping you get over procrastination. Is that an issue for anyone? There's even more specific skills, so learning how to use EndNote. Who knows what EndNote is? EndNote is a citation manager. You know that we're all about references and making sure you're backing up your statements and things like that. There's software out there that you have access to through the library that can help you with that. But of course, you need to be trained in it. Study Skills runs that training. So make sure you take advantage of these things. In effect, you're paying for them. So make sure you look at what is available for you and take advantage of it. In a similar vein, a lot of students aren't aware that you through enrolling in UC, you have access to Microsoft Office. Right? So you have a subscription to Microsoft Office. So make sure you're looking up those kind of advantages as well. Right? Okay, study skills. So the other way that you'll, the main way you'll probably interact with study skills over the next year or so is that you will see Katie and myself and the other first-year lecturers advertising PALS, so peer-assisted learning. Peer-assisted leaning sessions. I assure you I have peer-assisted learning sessions. You do lean a little bit on the people running them, but not too much. So PALS sessions are run by students that absolutely aced the unit you're taking now. They aced it the year before. Okay, so I work with a couple of students who are PALS leaders in physics, and they took it in the last year or two, and they absolutely aced it. Okay, so these are HD students. They're not your tutors. They don't know all the answers, but they know how to do well in the unit. They know the same pressures that you are facing as students, and they know how they can help you work through problems, as in the academic problems we present you with. They will run face-to-face and online sessions. So make sure you look out for PALS. They're going to drop into my physics lectures to advertise their services, and probably P&A as well. Yep, okay. The other drop-in service for similar sort of help is MASH. So a lot of students find that when they first see an equals sign, they freak out a little bit, and they just need to brush up a little bit on their maths and stats skills. So the MASH, Maths and Stats Help Group, MASH, they support students across the whole university, no matter what they're studying. It's where I refer my data analysis and science students to go to, for instance. For the most part, the tutors in MASH are, well, mathematicians or physicists or statisticians. Okay, so they really know their stuff. So make sure, again, that you're taking advantage of that if you think it's of use to you. I mentioned that the study skills have drop-in help. You should look up their services, well, obviously through this URL at the bottom of the screen, or just by going to the library's website. Okay? So you go to canberra.edu.au, there's a big old link for the library, and then all these services are listed there. One last thing I'll draw your attention to on this slide is on the right-hand side, there is a reference to the academic integrity module. Similar to the consent matters module, you will need to complete the academic integrity module at some stage of your course. There are some units you'll complete, such as professional orientation next year, where it's actually a requirement that you've got the academic integrity module completed. But don't wait till then, do it from day one. Academic integrity is just making sure you know how to avoid plagiarism, that you know how to reference correctly, that you know how to give credit where it's due. These kind of concepts. Consider joining the UC Student Mentor Program as a mentee initially, and then maybe as a mentor in future years. So once again, these are students that have gone through previously or are currently going through, but are in their final years, and they provide one-on-one interactions with new students to help them through their transition to university life. You also get a cool white t-shirt, it seems, if you sign up, so consider that. All right, there is also the Student Resource Centre. The Student Resource Centre is, yes, I have marked it on, that's good. So we are in building 27 at the moment. You will find that most of your classes are, in terms of labs, are in 27, are in building 6, and maybe some other. Where else would you have classes? Yeah. Okay. Okay, so for the most part, you will be down this end of the university. You might have some lectures in what's called the Boiler House, building 14, if you've looked at your timetables yet, and that is off the map, way down here somewhere. But apart from that, you'll be around this area. I know you already know where the library is, so if you use that as a starting point for reference, building 6 is just at the end of this central concourse. So the concourse being the paved area and then into the grassy area with the mysteriously painted caravan at the end, if you know what I'm talking about. If you don't, go on a scavenger hunt after this, find it. At the end of that concourse, you have building 6, and hidden away on the side here is a little door that takes you into the Student Resource Centre. Student Resource Centre is a space for you to study, to chill out. It is open to the whole university, but does seem to be populated mainly with science students. Let's not change that. No, it's open to everyone. Everyone should make use of it. But lining the walls are textbooks, which you will find of use to while you're in there. There are group study spaces. Study skills operate out of that space as well, and that's where PALS sessions are held. You will also find that your first year biology labs are held in that same building, immediately next to the SRC. There are some student societies that you should definitely join. Within science, you are welcome to join any society across the university. For some reason, the Japanese society or society, I don't know, is very, very popular, and I can't imagine there's that many people studying Japanese. So the point is that it's open to everyone. Okay? Any society you come across that might be doing something you're interested in, hang gliding, rock climbing, I don't know, go and find them, join up, augment your student life by joining some societies. However, make sure you also sign up to the ones that are science-based. So we have the Forensic Student Association. They're very active. They do lots of things on campus and off, lots of professional expansion activities, as well as a bunch of fun things. We have UC Swiss, which is UC Supporting Women in STEM, which are a fantastic group and are, again, very active. And we have, last but by no means least, oh, actually there is now a Biomedical and Medical Science Society as well. It's not up there. But last and not least, we have the UC Environmental Science Society. Do you guys want to introduce yourself? Can you come down here, actually, because we are using a camera.
Oh, there's a camera?
There is. I'm sorry.
I didn't even put it on like this so graphic. Where's the camera?
It's there, but if you...
Hello. Hello. I am. Do I have to be in front of this?
This would be great.
Okay, cool. Hello. I am Maddie. I'm the president of the Environmental Science Society. This is Sheree. She is our secretary. Actually, 2 of our committee members are PALs. So you will probably meet Izzy and Britt if you do PAL sessions. But yeah, we are a society that is mostly, environmental science. We are doing a tour of GoTerra on the 6th of August. So GoTerra is a Canberra-based bioengineering organisation. Super, super cool. They're doing some really awesome stuff with organic waste management on a commercial scale. We are also planning some panel nights, like Q&A nights with some researchers here at the university. And hopefully, if I can sweet talk my way into it, some people from CSIRO as well. So you can kind of learn a bit about the career path, how it is most definitely not a straight line, and how these people got to where they are, a few random questions. And the bigger thing is on the 2nd of October, we are having UC's first ever STEM ball. So at the moment, there are early bird tickets, so $75. You have 3-course meal, 2 drinks. There's going to be a photo booth, lucky door prizes, trivia, and there should also be some reptiles gate crashing at some point. So it should be really, really fun. So yeah, tickets are on sale now. There's only 30 early bird tickets. Yeah, I've already taken 2 of them. So, but yeah, we have a little QR thing if you want to scan. It's only $2.50 for the rest of the year. And yeah, some of our events are members only, so sign up. Yeah, exactly. We'll be sitting over there. But thank you.
Yeah, excellent. I very much encourage you to join societies, not just for the social experience, but for the professional development aspect as well. Okay. All right, let's talk a little bit about how this semester is going to go and on into the future. Is everyone else incredibly hot in this room? It's absolutely toasty, is it not? We've semester 1 and winter term have all, well, semester 1's obviously passed, winter term's about to be over, but I left them up there just so you could see roughly the structure of each year. So you will have 13-week-long semesters. So that means 13 weeks of classes, so lectures and labs and workshops and tutes. And then at the end of the 13 weeks, you have a 2-week examination period. Now, to be honest, there aren't actually that many true exams run anymore during the examination period. You'll find that a lot of your assessments are alternative to exams. However, they might be due during that period following the semester. So semester 2, 2nd of August to 29th of August, if you see those dates around, that's the 13 weeks. Don't book a holiday for the immediately following week because you will have assignments and or examinations due in those 2 weeks, okay? So we have the rough schedule for the year. Most of your units will be in semester 1 or semester 2. There are some limited options available in winter term. Within the School of Science, we have only a couple of units that are actually aimed at finishing students. Only a couple of those units run in winter term. However, there are units offered by other faculties that you might want to take as an open elective or whatever it might be, that we can help squeeze into your degree. You might want to do that because you dropped a unit at some point, you didn't pass a unit and you need to make it up, or perhaps you want to finish just that little bit quicker. So winter term is something to keep in mind. It is shorter, you might notice, and so it's a bit more intensive. So it's 8 weeks rather than 13. So yeah, that's something to keep in mind, but it is an option for most of you. All right, so how do we build your course? I keep saying units. I keep trying to not say units, but I keep saying units. When I'm saying a unit, I mean a subject. But what does that mean? So we'll go into that. We'll go into what majors are, we know, and then therefore how you compile those into a degree. So what is a unit? Who knows what these are? These units. Yeah? Yeah, yes, I do. Okay, I don't want to fill you in anymore. The DSI units, exactly. Does anyone feel brave enough to tell you what they all are? It's a big ask, isn't it? Okay, I know most of you know 5 of them. Okay, so which ones don't you know? Let's go that way, and I'll trust that you know the other ones. CD, okay. Any takers? That's probably the rarest one. It says candela. It's luminosity. It's how bright things are. Any other ones? The others, you might not meet candela during your course, but the other ones you almost certainly will. Okay, cool, good. Something to know. Learn in coming weeks. Well, years. All right. So anyway, that's not the type of units we are talking about. Of course, when I say a unit, for the most part, I'm talking about a specific subject. Okay, so whether it be maths methods, or I keep saying plants and animals, or introductory physics, or data analysis in science. They're usually a semester long. Now, for the most part, we talk about credit points rather than taking a unit. Most of you will complete 24 units across your course. However, technically, we don't talk about completing a certain number of units. We talk about completing a certain number of credit points. Most units are worth 3 credit points, therefore you'll be doing 72 credit points across your course. And that's how we build your degree. These are the little foundational building blocks that we use to build it up. The reason we talk about it in credit points rather than units is that you might take a unit at some point that is worth more than 3 credit points. Probably not within science, but certainly other faculties offer units that are complementary to ours that are worth more than 3 credit points. Some of you might take study abroad, assuming things change in the next little while. Some of you might take units overseas at other institutions that I can credit towards your degree here, but I might be able to give you more than 3 credit points if it's an intensive research subject or something that is a bit more involved. The other thing to be aware of is that I mentioned units are a specific subject like math methods, but very often we refer to them by their codes. Okay, so each unit has a unique code. 577 is mathematical methods, 8101 is system science. Some of you will be enrolled in 8101 already, I assume. Yeah, okay. And any of you starting environmental science will get you enrolled. All right, in terms of what is involved in a unit, the amount that you're expected to work. So each of your units that is worth 3 credit points is worked out based on the assumption that you will do 150 hours on average work towards that unit across semester. Okay, so across those 13 weeks of classes and the 2 assessment, 2 weeks of assessment afterwards. So for a typical unit in semester 1 or semester 2, they're based around 3 to 4 contact hours per week. I am a meanie. My physics class has 5 hours a week. Some of the chem units have even more again. However, that is balanced off against the independent study that you're expected to do. So that, again, on average, you're just doing the 150 hours per semester per unit. So to balance it, if you had 4 contact hours per week, you would be expected to do between 4 to 8 independent study hours per week. All right. And so as a result, at the end of semester, before you've even known it, it's an effortless experience, I assure you. You'll have clocked up 150 or so hours. You don't have to tell me if you don't want to in front of other people, but most of you are enrolled full time. Okay, so that means taking 3, in most cases 4 units per semester. Okay, so 4 units, 4 individual subjects at 150 hours each. You should be expecting to do about 600 hours of study. Okay, across semester. Sounds like a lot, but then you break it down days. It's not actually that bad at all. Part-time is when you're doing less than 3 units fewer than 3 units per semester. Okay, so if you're only taking 1 or 2, you've got to balance it with work, you've got something to attend to in your family life, whatever it may be. For a semester, you want to drop down to just 1 or 2 units. We can do that. We can work together to do that. But at that time, you're technically part-time. You should discuss that with your program director if you wish to go part-time. The ramifications of doing so are that obviously stretches your degree out a bit more. It may affect your progress in terms of completing. We have what's called prerequisites. So in order to do second year chemistry, you have to do first year chemistry, right? It may affect the flow of units, and it may have some implications for Centrelink if you're using their services. All right, what are majors and minors? Again, apologies for irrelevant, well, semi-irrelevant picture. So we build up those units into a major or a minor. And effectively a major is a specialization, okay? So at the end of your degree, you can say, I have a Bachelor of Science and I majored in, I specialized in applied ecology. For the most part, they're composed of 6 units, so 18 credit points. So we take 6 units, stick them together and say, this equates to an applied ecology major. And I'll show you a little bit of that structure in a minute. These are kind of this spells out some of the technical requirements of what constitutes a major. Likewise, a minor is 4 units within a particular area. Those of you doing Bachelor of Environmental Science, minors aren't as relevant to you. You'll be ticking off a couple of majors and then open electives around it. Those of you who are doing Bachelor of Science, you must do 2 majors and 1 minor. Right. Okay, so just want to give you the context of where your course sits within the Faculty of Science and Technology. I need to remember to stay back here. So I assume this is what they do in technology. I don't really know. I figure that the classes look a little bit like that. You know these guys are scientists because she's looking down a microscope. She's looking at a blue liquid in a beaker. So therefore, they must be scientists. But certainly, you'll be doing lots of lab work. Okay, you're going to be very much in the lab, in the field, for those doing enviro subjects, as well as in the classroom. But to be honest, there is a real emphasis here on experiential learning, which means getting out there, getting your hands dirty, getting in the lab, getting in the field, whatever it might be. So within that Faculty of Science, I said ITS is one school. We are the School of Science. So there are four different courses within the school. Some of you are doing the Bachelor of Science. The key with Bachelor of Science is flexibility. I mentioned this before. You need to do 2 majors and a minor, but how you compose them out of the list of possible majors that we will give you is up to you. And so there's lots of flexibility. I mean, for a start, this person has branched out and she's now doing red liquids as well as blue liquids. We also have the Bachelor of Biomedical and Medical Science. This is really naughty that I've combined them like this. It's to shorthand it so I can fit it on the screen. They are different, but there is some overlap in the units that most students take. You'll meet plenty of biomed and medical science students around. You'll do a lot of your first year units in common with them. And then we have the Bachelor of Applied Science in Forensic Studies. And again, those students will be taking a lot of the same foundational science units that you guys will take. And so you'll get to know the whole cohort across the school. And then in later years, you start specializing into your different areas. So half of you are talking about doing the Bachelor of Science. So I mentioned before, the rough structure of the degree is to do 2 majors and 1 minor. And then there is a balance left over of 24 credit points. 24 credit points is how many units? I know, early days to be like giving you a quiz. Oh, did I say there's a quiz at the end of this? I really should have mentioned that at the top, sorry. No quiz. So a balance of 24 credit points is actually another 8 units. Now you might read into that 8 units means you do have space to squeeze another major in as well, should you wish to do so. But you could also use them just to take a mix of other units from across the university that interest you. So maybe you know that you want to get into genetics, and you want to major in genetics or environmental genetics or whatever it might be. But you also kind of are interested in basket weaving or interpretive dance of calligraphy or whatever it might be. Maybe you want to do the history of ice cream. You can go and take one of these units from somewhere else on campus. And that's perfectly fine. So again, the emphasis here is all on flexibility in the Bachelor of Science. I strongly suggest, as a program director, that you take units in those extra slots that complement your majors, so it builds up into a nice cohesive whole, but ultimately it is up to you guys. And as much as I joke about those kind of arts units, there is an enormous advantage to taking units that introduce some different style of analysis to you. So whether it be, so there was even like the creative writing kind of side. So you learn to, there's skills you will pick up there that you can apply to your science very much. Another really important area to consider is whether you want to undertake some kind of Indigenous studies unit. So you get some cultural perspective on what we're studying. We do integrate that a little bit into our units in science as it is. However, there are massive advantages to thinking a little bit outside of this faculty when you're considering what other units you might take. Okay, so as I say, your balance there once you've ticked off the minimum requirements. Could be another major, could be other minors, or it could be just open electives or some combination of the above. Half of you have made the better choice. Sorry, I should not have said that. Half of you are doing environmental science. I will declare my bias outright. My research area was in freshwater science, so I do have a little bit of a bias, as I say. But very happy to talk all the sciences. Within the Bachelor of Environmental Science, there is a focus, as I say, on learning that gets you out there, gets you climbing trees, apparently, bogging and unbogging cars. I really need to update these photos. They're clearly from before I was born, I think. But the idea is that you will do lots of field work. You will also follow through on that field work, and you'll bring your samples back to the lab. Some of the units we have this awesome construction where early on you learn a bit of theory, of course, but then you're out in the field, you're collecting your samples, then you're bringing them back here and you're analyzing them in the lab, and then you're writing them up and you're doing the tail end analysis on them as well. Really cool structures like that. So it's not just all sitting in dusty lecture theatres, which is just terrific. It is a field-based program. I mentioned some changes that are impending in the next couple of years. You can talk to me about that if you want. We can work out the way that you could choose a path through that gives you the best of the old and the best of the new, if you want. But either way, you'll end up with a lot of these out and about experiences. So we have trips, obviously, around ACT and Canberra, but beyond that as well. So out west, we were on a week-long field trip out in Landra, which is in western New South Wales. We go up into the Alps. Have you ever participated, Katie? There's one weekend we do, we go from, it's called Cosy to Coast. So you go out to the Mount Kosciuszko and then spend the weekend driving down to the coast, stopping routinely and checking as the ecosystems change along the way. Really cool experiences like that. And of course, we do look at the coast a little bit as well. The other theme, apart from that kind of practical hands-on experience, is work-integrated learning. You know it's work-integrated because here are 3 people at work walking along and talking to each other. We will teach you to hold a clipboard. No, that's not true. But you will, as part of your studies, end up doing a placement out in industry or with government, or perhaps here as well. Some students choose to stay here and do a little research project, one-on-one with an academic. Depends which path you want to take, it's up to you. But the idea is that you get exposed to those real-world industry skills. This is not something you need to think about doing now. However, it is something to keep in mind that at some point you will end up taking a placement. Something about whether you want it to be in a lab environment or a field environment. Maybe you want to tromp around Tidbinbilla or during your placement or whatever it might be. So just something to keep at the back of your mind. We also have work-integrated learning throughout the course in the sense that a lot of your units you'll find are given by guest lecturers and guest presenters from outside of UC that come to us in part for this reason. All right, this structure is based on a semester 1 start, but to be honest, it's what most of you in Bachelor of Environmental Science commencing now will do is shift this down 1 semester. So you will still complete 3 years, but it will be offset by a year. Okay? So you can look forward to finishing after semester 1 in 2024. Okay? We can individualize a plan for you. That's not a problem at all. But I wanted to show you the structure of what you're doing in terms of majors and minors. So there are all of these core units. Okay, so there's actually 8 core units. However, some of them have co-requisites. So for instance, you have to take tackling environmental challenges in your final year. But it's called what's called a co-requisite that sits with it. So you find that you also need to do environmental conflict and engagement. So these are not, all of the units that are up here are not optional. Okay? These are part of the requirements for your course. You will then complete 2 majors, one in applied ecology and one in water science. Those are highlighted in yellow there. Now, you may notice that 2 majors, I said before, should be 6 plus 6 units. The reason that there aren't 12 units highlighted is that those majors have some units in common. Okay, so for instance, landscape processes is common to both applied ecology and water science majors. Good news for you is that that's obviously an efficient way to achieve majors, and so it frees up another open elective for you. So then you have a balance of credit points for open electives, and there are 6 of them. Okay? So that's 6 units that you can take and do whatever you want to with. So the only restriction, and this is true for the Bachelor of Science as well, is that you may have no more than 10 units at level 1. Now, there are 7 core units in the environmental science at level 1. So in effect, you've only got 3 left over from at level 1 for open electives. Okay, so that is the rough structure of the course. Do you guys have any questions about that? Okay, so I would, we can talk briefly after this. We've got to get to lunch, but we can talk briefly one-on-one either now or at lunch about what you individually should do. Very happy to run that through with you so you can leave knowing what to enroll in terms of units for this coming semester. Or you can take advantage of that campus site, the School of Science Course Advice and Information site. There is some more generic information there, including generic study plans for commencement in semester 2. Okay? But roughly speaking, anyone who's doing environmental science this semester, you should be enrolled in these 3 units, data analysis and science, plants and animals, and earth system science. You do technically have another open elective, but I would recommend you take mathematical methods, just in terms of your progression. So what that means for future years in terms of prerequisites and co-requisites. It's a lovely complex logic puzzle that I'll sit down and explain to you over a coffee some point if you're interested. But that is my recommendation, okay? Earth system science, plants and animals, earth system science, and mathematical methods. All right. So this is just a reference slide. These are all things we've covered previously. Should say, in fact, maybe in the first instance, come and speak to me right now if you have any questions. I have covered a lot there. I'm really sorry it's so dry, but for sitting through it with me, I'm sure you can see that it's important. Katie, is there anything I should add? I can't remove anything at this stage. Perfect. So you're dead right. I guess this isn't relevant for the people down the computer anyway. But yeah, so we do have lunch immediately after this. We'll walk over together. However, you do need to be registered for lunch, which you can register through your phone. I believe you should have been sent an email about it, and you need to check in. Okay, thank you. We are going by the ACT government guidelines in terms of COVID restrictions, so there aren't mandatory needs for masks and so on. However, there are gloves, masks, and sanitizer down at lunch. It's a concern for you and whether you join us or not. Okay, so I think that's it. Katie, if you don't mind stopping the recording, I'll say thank you to those who are online for joining us. I look forward to seeing you on campus soon. Those of you who are here, come up and say hi, and we'll talk about your individual